Oh, we are so in. We're so ready to go. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to FPL Mate for a new season. Yes, guys, we are. This, I guess, is the first video stream technically for FPL 2024-2025. It begins. Finally, it begins here, guys. I'm excited. I'm so excited. We've got the price reveals coming in clutch today. The FPL Twitter account has been dropping them every half an hour. And now have we got the full 20 now? Possibly. We'll have a look shortly. But I think we are very close to having all 20. We might have 2 more to go. And I think that'll be at 5:30. So that'll be during this stream. We're going to stream for a little while today, guys. And hopefully, whether you are watching live or you're watching this as a replay, you will enjoy the discussion all about the price reveals from FPL for the new season. And we're going to have a look, see if they're good, see if they're bad, see if there's something in between potentially there. And yeah, there's lots to be said. And I'm sure you guys will want to be joining in the discussion too. So get your comments in the chat. Get your comments in the comment section if you're not watching this live as well. And yeah, we're going to have some fun with this. We're going to have some fun with this today. So looking forward to getting started. I think we just go straight in, guys. We'll go straight in because we are on the FPL Twitter account. Here we are, live and direct. And we're going to have a look at, well, what we got. We're going to see what we have today. And yes, straight away, you can see, guys, that it does say that FPL are going to be announcing some prices throughout the day. And which they have been doing today. If you've missed it, if you haven't missed it, maybe you've been keeping along with it, that's absolutely fine as well. So, yeah, I think we've got 2 more left, and then we'll have all of them. Oh, Meerkat says we already have 1 player from all 20 teams. Okay, we're done then. We're done. So I think we'll start at the bottom and then just go through them and see what we think. I'll say this now because I know a lot of people are going to be asking this question immediately. It is... when is FPL actually going to launch? I think it's going to happen on Tuesday, possibly Wednesday of next week. So not long now before you can start selecting your teams. You cannot select your team just yet, though. So you're going to have to wait just a few more days and we can start building those teams. And we're going to be taking you through all of that on this channel, as always. But right now, we're going to talk about some players and some prices. So, first of all, we'll start with what is probably the big news of the day. I would say this is probably the biggest news of the day, and that is that Erling Haaland coming in as a 15 million forward. That is going to be the most expensive player in FPL history. Yes, history has been made today in the world of FPL as we see 15 million for Haaland. I think it's good. I am a big fan of this price. A lot of you guys will say it's too expensive. A lot of you guys will say it's not enough. But I think that's a good thing. If some of you are saying that he's too expensive and some of you saying he's a good price, then that is a good thing. It means that we won't see the same thing as happened last season in FPL, where I think Haaland got up to something like 85% ownership. Like, he was in 85% of teams. Did he even get up to 90% at some time? Someone in the chat will perhaps know this. If you know, let me know. But yeah, certainly he got to ridiculous, higher than any player has ever been owned in a fantasy Premier League season in history. Haaland was reaching those heights. And that's boring, man. If everyone has got the same players, then it means you're basically playing with 10 men in FPL each week. With this price, people are going to be forced into a decision. Some people will have him, some people will not have him. And therefore, we won't see 14-man squads, 10 men on the pitch in FPL anymore, because suddenly we've got a position in the forward position where not everyone is thinking exactly the same. And I'm very glad we're seeing this price increase. It needed to be done. I'm happy about it. A lot of you guys will be saying, I'm not sure if I fancy him at that price. For me personally, I'm still taking him at 15 million, particularly when we look at the match day, game week 2 fixture for Erling Haaland. So I've got the fixtures. Obviously, we've got the fixtures on screen here. But going to match day 2, game week 2, you can see that we have a fantastic fixture for Man City at home against Ipswich Town. And that is going to be a really, really crucial captain opportunity for Haaland. really, really, really crucial captain opportunity. So I think we're going for him. For me personally, I think I'm going for him at 15 million. I would probably maybe not take him at 15.5, 16. I think that might be a little too much, but at 15, I think I still take him. So guys, what do you think? I'm going to put a poll in the chat. We won't do too many polls, but we'll do a few polls in the chat throughout the stream. And this first question is, will you take Haaland for 15 million? And your options are yes or no. And let's see what the consensus is. I think probably most people will still say yes. But, you know, even if it's like 60-40, even if it's like 60-40, that means he's been priced well. If everyone is saying yes, it's a bad price. If everyone is saying no, it's a bad price. If it is around the middle, it's a good price. We want to make those decisions. We want to have that skill gap. We want that. It is going to be really, really important that that we do have these choices to make. Otherwise, it's just boring, man. It's just boring. Let's go a little further. Let's go to the next player whilst that poll is ticking along. But I can see already that it's pretty split. It's pretty split there. So, a couple more price reveals for some newly promoted players. So we've got Taylor Harwood-Bellis. He is a centre-back for Southampton. They signed him for 20 million, I believe, something like that. So, yeah, he came from Man City. He did very well last season, aiding Southampton in their promotion push, and he played every game. So he's a regular starting defender. So it looks like, kind of just like last year, FPL was going to drop in a few 4 million defenders for us to choose from if we're looking for those super cheap players. And if there's some very expensive players like Haaland for 15 million, then we might have to choose a couple of cheap players. And I like this. Because if you put Taylor Harwood-Bellis at 4.5 million, no one's going to pick him. At 4 million, some people will. So dropping some of these newly promoted defenders, or maybe what you might consider weaker defenders down to that 4 million mark, I think is perfect, because it allows them to be an option at that cheap price tag. And we're expecting 4 million, once again, to be the cheapest a defender can be in the game. So the ultimate baseline price of defender. But if you're looking for a cheap defender, Southampton have a good fixture. Why not? Why not go for him? Of course, the opening game is away against Newcastle. Probably not going to buy him immediately, but if we're looking for bargains, this is a nice start. Let's move on to Leif Davis. He did very well last season, actually, for Ipswich Town. So he performed well. So he's just a little bit higher at 4.5. I think he could be one of those players similar to Doughty at Luton last season, where there could be a bit of potential here for an attacking fullback from Ipswich. Obviously, in previous years, he might be more of a 5 million player. So I like that they've priced him at 4.5 million, because once again, it does give us a bit of an option here. Also got Ricardo Pereira, another newly promoted defender. Pereira, a little bit more history in FPL. Done very well historically in FPL for Leicester in the Premier League. Now at 4.5 million. We've seen him certainly at 5 million, maybe moving up a little bit above 5 million as well. So that's definitely going to be a potential option as well if you're looking for those bargain players. Hopefully we'll find more bargains. I think we can probably do better than Davis and Pereira at 4.5 million. We might get some new options at those kind of price ranges. But if you like the look of Southampton to perform well, if you like the look of Ipswich to perform well, if you like, Leicester, you think these teams are going to be maybe a little bit above the relegation zone, you think any one of them can do mid-table vibes this season, then they're definitely going to be options for you. And I like that. And then we will be talking a little bit about this. Speed United says 18 assists in 46 games as a defender is very good. That is, of course, in reference to Davis. Yeah, really good season for him last year. It's going to be tougher in the Premier League, of course it is. But if he can get 5 or 6 assists this season for Ipswich in the Premier League at 4.5 million, it's not too bad. That's okay. You can play him certainly in some of the easier fixtures. One note on Ipswich is that they do have a pretty nightmarish start. Liverpool is the opening fixture, and the second fixture is actually Man City for Ipswich. So I'm not sure I'll be taking Davis personally right off the bat, but these are players we want to be keeping an eye on. Really, really is. Okay, let's move on. Because there's only so much we can talk about some of these players. We've got 2 more price reveals here. One is for Kai Havertz. Kai Havertz, 8 million, reassigned to the forward position. So he was listed as a midfielder last season in FPL. He, of course, did start the season for Arsenal, playing in more of a midfield role. We saw in the second half of the season, he really thrived in a central striker role for Arsenal. And I have to say, 8 million for, okay, let's get this right. Arsenal don't really want to go too far here, but I think we will probably agree at this point, based on the last couple of seasons, that Arsenal are going to be the second best team in the league, right? Do we agree with that? Liverpool fans probably have something to say about that, but, you know, last couple of seasons, from what we know, Arsenal, second best team in the league, been challenging for the title the last 2 years. Probably still not going to get it because Man City are just too good. But still, we've got an opportunity to get the central striker for the second best team in the Premier League for 8 million. I actually think this price is a little too low. I would have liked to see Havertz at 8.5. I think at 8 million, we're picking him. I think we're picking him. I think he's another player you definitely want to go for. I can see him being very highly owned come game week 1. Kind of a little look at Arsenal's fixtures. 2024-25. And we kind of have a look. So we've got Wolves, then Aston Villa, then Brighton, Spurs, Man City, and then Leicester. It's not the most amazing opening run of fixtures. You fancy Arsenal against Wolves. Aston Villa is a tougher fixture. Brighton, you fancy them. Spurs, could be goals in that game. Man City, tough. Leicester after that, could it be okay? I think it could. So from game week 1, I think Havertz is certainly an option at 8 million. Definitely an option. I don't think he'll be in everyone's team, but he'll be in some teams. Richarlison was the other player from North London. Once again, reassigned from the midfield to a forward position within FPL for the new year. 7 million. Again, I have a bit of a problem with this price. I think it's too cheap. I would have liked to see Richarlison at 7.5. Maybe even 8, but more likely 7.5. Because what we're looking at here is we're looking at a striker, central striker, for a top 8 team. Let's say top 8 team. Let's throw in Aston Villa and Newcastle in the conversation of teams in that top 8 area who are, you know, the top teams in the league who we expect to win most of their games. We expect them to score goals. We've got a central striker for 7 million. This is, of course, if Richarlison is nailed to start, if he stays at the club and doesn't get a move to Saudi or something like that. If that's the case, and he is starting regularly for Spurs, 7 million is an absolute bargain. It really, really is a bargain. And if you are struggling for cash when we're building our teams, I think Richarlison could be one of those forward enablers. Drop down a Havertz or a Isak or a Watkins down to Richarlison, and we're talking business. I think he's a good way of freeing up a little bit of cash there. So, yeah, not too bad. Not too bad at 7 million. One thing I will say is that even though Havertz at 8 and Richarlison at 7, even though I do think they are a little bit too cheap, I definitely think that because they're not fashionable players, they probably will be slightly lower ownership. I don't think they are no-brainers because they are not as fashionable. People, you know, associate Richarlison and Havertz with missing chances and not being very clinical. And, yeah, not a lot of people like these players as players necessarily. Some people might like them in FPL, maybe not so much out in the real world when football is played on grass. And I think the other reason why we might see Havertz and Richarlison see slightly lower ownership is because you only get 3 slots for forwards in the game of FPL, and there might be some other options that kind of force our hands in a way. You know, if you're going for Haaland, that's one of your 3 slots taken immediately. If you want an Isak or a Watkins, that's the second slot taken up. And then after that, you know, you might want to go a little cheaper. You might want to go for a Mateta. You might want to go for someone else. Who knows? Maybe you want to go for Isak and Watkins and go for that trio up front. I think price aside, money aside, I think most people would say Haaland, Watkins, Isak are probably going to be the 3 big forward targets for this FPL season. We are going to have a look at the Watkins price reveal very shortly, by the way, guys. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But yeah, if you do need to free up a bit of cash, Richarlison could be the way. Right, we have got a super chat here from Omri. Omri says, if Salah leaves to Saudi, then again, just like last season when Kane left, there is too much of a price drop and difference, don't you think? Okay, I definitely know what you're trying to say here, Omri. So what we're saying is, just like last year, if Salah leaves and no other player is priced above 10 million, then suddenly we're in trouble because Haaland would become the only expensive player in the game. You'd maybe say, you know, we'll see what De Bruyne is, we'll see what Saka is, we'll see what Palmer is, we'll see what Son is, of course. But yeah, we definitely run that risk of Haaland being the standout forward in that expensive forward category, and there's no one really similar price to him. And that would be a bit of a problem, and it means that jumping on and off Haaland is likely to be a 2 transfer move. So I think in many ways, it's going to force decisions. Particularly in that forward position where no one's going to come close to Haaland's price. You either have him or you don't. And whichever one you choose, you kind of have to firm it in a way. Because it's going to take you multiple transfers to switch it around. And either remove Haaland if you don't want him or add him in if you do want him. It's going to take multiple transfers to take Haaland in and out because you have to free up money, basically. Or you'll want to spend the money to downgrade after you downgrade him, or you need to free up money to bring him into your team because he's not going to be able to be done in one transfer. Certainly not to bring him into your team. A little bit easier if you're taking him out. So yeah, that could be it could be a problem. It could be a problem, but it's a new thing to navigate in the game of FPL. So, couple of 5.5 million midfielders. This time we've got Callum Hudson-Odoi, 5.5 million. Fairly strong end to the season, you would say. Looks pretty good. Nice little 5.5 million enabler for Nottingham Forest. I'm not sure I'm super interested here, but you know, if you find yourself, you know, needing to go cheap, need to go for a super cheap midfielder, then maybe he's your man. As could be Semenyo, listed as a 4.5 million forward actually last year, Semenyo, but certainly after a couple of months he found himself nailed on in that Bournemouth team as one of their crucial wingers in that team, playing alongside Solanke. But again, 5.5 million is a decent price for him. You could potentially go for him at 5.5. Is he going to be one of the first players on our lips as we build our teams in a few days' time? Probably not. Probably not. So I think we can move on. I think we can move on from there and go to Mo Salah. Mo Salah. Interesting. Omri, of course, mentioned that the Mo Salah could leave the Premier League. I don't actually think that's going to happen. And I like the look of Salah in this Arnie slot system. I like it. And a midfielder, once again, 12.5 once again. So he's not had any change from last season, from the start of last season anyway. So I think that's good. Good price for him. About right. I think we're reasonably happy with Salah. Again, we might see Salah 50-50 kind of thing. I think that deserves another poll. We'll close the first poll, guys. First poll was, of course, will you take Haaland for 15 million? We got 54% yes, 46% no. And that shows that they've priced him perfectly. If it's a 50-50 decision, they've priced him perfectly. I love that. So let's end that poll there, guys. Thank you, everyone, for getting involved in that one. And we're going to start a new one. And this new one is, will you take Salah for 12.5 million? And I think we might even see more people say yes to this one. And one of the reasons for that is because of the fixture. Opening fixture for Liverpool is against Ipswich. So that's going to make Salah a captain option for game week 1 immediately. We'll have a look through Liverpool's fixtures as well here, because they actually do have quite a nice run at the start of the season. So they play Ipswich, then Brentford, then Manchester United, Nottingham Forest, Bournemouth and Wolves. The only big team they play against is Manchester United, who of course are, I think people still would back Liverpool to beat Manchester United at this present moment. So yeah, we'll see what Manchester United do. If they have a big season, then that's going to be very interesting indeed, if they can start competing once again. But from what we know right now, I would say that all 6 opening fixtures are pretty favourable for Liverpool, and they're all games in which you would expect Liverpool to win. So we've got a nice run of opening fixtures. Again, I'm still not sure if there's going to be too many other actually options from Liverpool. We're going to look through that Liverpool team. There's going to be players here and there, but by far the most popular player to select for Liverpool is going to be Salah. No one else is going to come close. People will pick Van Dijk, Trent, Cody Gakpo if he starts getting games, Darwin Nunez if he can avoid a ban for what happened yesterday, but that's another conversation. Yeah, I think everyone else is a big question mark, no matter what their price is. But Salah looks good, 12.5. And it looks like most of you guys agree. And we're at around 60% yes, 40% no for Salah. So actually, you guys seem to prefer Salah to Haaland. So I think we're going to see, indeed, that Salah will be a more popular player than Erling Haaland by the time we get to the game week 1 deadline. Fantastic. The pendulum has swung away from Haaland in FPL and back towards the king of FPL, which is Mohamed Salah. What a legend. Legend of the game. All right, let's move on whilst that poll goes on. We'll try and get to about 500 votes before we close each poll here. And we look at this poll here, guys. You can only choose one. Haaland 15 million, Salah 12.5 million, 60%, over 60% are going for Salah out of the two. It's interesting stuff. Right, got a couple of goalkeepers here, guys. Jordan Pickford, 5 million. Bernd Leno, 5 million. So I think in FPL, generally speaking, we are going to be looking to see if we can find any 4.5 million goalkeepers, see if we can find any bargains there. But in the absence of bargains, if we're looking for someone a little bit more reliable, Pickford and Leno definitely provide that. And Pickford, I have to say, and maybe this is my England bias coming through a little bit, having watched Euros game recently, but Pickford, yeah, I kind of don't mind this one. Could be interesting. Opening fixture at home against Brighton. We saw that Everton were a pretty strong and solid defence last season. Let's see if they are the same with Branthwaite potentially leaving the club. Let's see if it's the same situation then. But Pickford under Dyche. It's not bad. 5 million. I think, again, they've aced the price. We've got two goalkeepers here who actually last season, I probably should have a look here, in terms of points among goalkeepers. We did see them among the top goalkeepers. So, yeah, Pickford, number 1 goalkeeper for last season. Leno, 3rd. Both of them started at 4.5, I believe. Yeah, 4.5 there. Leno started at 4.5. So, yeah, they both had a 0.5 million price hike from last season. But I still think they are to be considered. Again, it's going to depend on if you're trying to shave budget anywhere. Like if you want to shave budget somewhere, might be worth dropping down to a 4.5 million goalkeeper, but 5 million considerations. Another thing is, it depends. If we also see like David Raya at Arsenal at 5 million, then it's a no-brainer, you go there. If we see, I don't know, a Chelsea goalkeeper or a Newcastle goalkeeper or a Spurs goalkeeper potentially, if we see these kind of guys at 5 million, then maybe we prefer them to a Leno or a Pickford. But I think Raya will be 5.56 million. So I think Raya's going to have a decent price increase. Alisson and Edison are always at around 5.56. Pope, is usually around the same price. So I still think that Leno and Pickford will offer value for money compared to some of those higher profile goalkeepers. Well, certainly playing for higher profile teams anyway. So, yeah, I think it's very much going to depend on Vicario, Petrovic, these kind of players, what they're priced at. Because if they're also 5 million, then a decision has to be made. But if they're more like 5.5, then suddenly Pickford at 5, Leno at 5, suddenly those prices look a little bit better. I'm going to look through some of the other top goalkeepers. Onana, if he's 5, you maybe take him over these two guys we just spoke about. If Onana is 5.5, then maybe you go for the bargain, etc., etc. Martinez at Aston Villa as well. If he's 5, you take him. If he's 5.5, you maybe go for a cheaper player. So I think it's difficult to judge these goalkeepers until we've seen more goalkeeper prices. So let's see. Moving on. So 3 price reveals here. I want to go through these first. So first of all, Neto 6.5. He has been on the transfer radar for a few teams. Arsenal have been linked with him. Spurs have been linked with him. And I'm sure a few other teams have been linked with him as well. If he gets a transfer and becomes a regular starter, 6.5, that could be a ridiculous price tag. That really could be dumb cheap. For Wolves, a team that haven't always been amazing. I don't know. I often worry about Wolves, to be perfectly honest with you guys. If he does stay at Wolves, I still think 6.5 million is a good price for him. I think he could still be reasonably good value for money there. And I certainly would prefer him to the likes of Semenyo and Hudson-Odoi. And Neto is a fantastic player. He really is a fabulous player. So I think we've got to consider him at 6.5. Again, depending on who the other 6.5 options are, which we're going to have a look at now. Because we also got Solly March at 6.5. Pretty much injured all of last season. Rubbish to see that March was injured all last season. Season before did very well, but I think because he hasn't played in so long, he hasn't really got super consistency of playing at the highest level. Really, Solly March, when we're talking about Solly March being a really, really good, solid fantasy option, scoring goals, getting assists. We've only really seen 6 months of him doing that, ever, in his, how long of playing in the Premier League? Years and years and years. So 6.5 is not super interesting to me for March. I would have liked to see Kaoru Mitsuma's price today, to be honest, because I think he'll be potentially on some more lips. We'll see again. I think they'll probably be a similar price, to be honest. Right. This is, for me, the most interesting player that we found out about today. It really, really is. 6.5 million for Christopher Nkunku. I hate to say it, but FPL have really screwed it up with this price. They have messed up bad. It was going so well. So far, every player we've been speaking about, you'd probably say, yeah, about right, until this point. And when this was revealed earlier today, I was so disappointed. I was so disappointed to see him so low. I am basically now counting on the majority of FPL managers to be too foolish to recognise how much of a bargain this is. Guys, if you don't know, now you know, Nkunku is well, okay, last season, yeah, fair enough. He was injured. He was injured pretty much all season. We saw a few games from him. But super unlucky with an injury. And from what I know, Chelsea fans, correct me if I'm wrong, he's not a super injury-prone player. I mean, let's just verify it now. Nkunku injury history. Have a look on Transfermarkt. Yeah, so really unlucky with injuries for Chelsea. But prior to that, I mean, missed a few games here and there. Last really significant injury, he only missed 12 games. That was back in November 2022. Other than that, it's kind of like missed one game here, one game there. Not really anything too serious. So I wouldn't say historically, I wouldn't say he is an injury-prone player. For most players around his age, how old is he? About 27 years old. If what we would expect to see like a more significant injury history than this. This is pretty tame for a professional football player. This is a pretty tame injury history, actually. So I know people will say he's an injury-prone player because for a lot of people, their only point of reference on Nkunku will be last season. They might not have even heard of him or knew much about him before that. So let me tell you a little bit about Nkunku before that. So we can stay on this website, actually, because we'll pull the exact stats up on screen. But he was player of the year, player of the season, during his last season at RB Leipzig. And the top goal scorer in the Bundesliga for that year as well, with 16 goals and 6 assists in 25 games. So we're talking about a top quality player. Going into last season, before Nkunku's injury, Chelsea fans were saying, he is literally going to be our best player. He is literally our star player. So, what we're talking about is Chelsea's star player finally back from injury with a summer to recuperate, come back into this Chelsea team, and there's no reason why he wouldn't start, because on paper, Nkunku is Chelsea's best player. People might argue Palmer now. Difficult to say. Of course, there's loads of arguments to say Palmer, but this player is incredible. He is so good at footy. Plays as a second striker or as a striker, and in fantasy for this season, he's listed as a midfielder. So, what have we got? We have got a 6.5 million midfielder in FPL. But in real life, he is the star, potentially striker, for Chelsea FC. The star player, playing alongside Cole Palmer and all of his creativity, going to be creating for Palmer as well. That Nkunku-Palmer link-up could cook. There is no reason to price Nkunku at 6.5 million. It is stupid. Whoever respectfully, I'm sure no one from FPL is listening right now, but if you are, what happened there? Did you just forget who Nkunku was? He is him. Did you just look at last season and see, oh, Nkunku didn't score many FPL points last season. We better put his price down. Is that what you... This is Nkunku. This is one of the greatest talents in the Bundesliga for the last few seasons. This is a potential striker for a sleeping giant in Chelsea FC. A star man. Can he take penalties back off Palmer? Okay, maybe I'm going too far there. But there's some potential there. The glazing is crazy, don't get me wrong. But this is such a bargain. This is such a bargain. Now, respectfully, I would say that a lot of people will just avoid Nkunku. One, because they are not familiar with his game. Their ball knowledge is limited, and all they go off of who scored the most FPL points last season. And if so, much like the person who priced Nkunku at 6.5 million, you're making a mistake. And I think a lot of other people who may be more familiar with Nkunku's game, but a little bit more cautious on him. Obviously, he didn't play a lot last season. Going into the new season, it's difficult to predict exactly under Maresca where he's going to be playing. If he is going to be playing, surely. I mean, you don't bring Nkunku to your team and don't play him. It's going to be like a whole new signing for Chelsea. People in the chat already saying injury prone. These are people who are not familiar with his game. And I think there will be a lot of people who are unfamiliar with actually what Nkunku is, or either unfamiliar or cautious, which is completely reasonable to be cautious. I definitely understand the view of, okay, I want to see how he fits in at Chelsea. I want to see how many minutes he's getting in off the bat. A full summer of recovery, he should be fine. But 6.5 million, it's not like you're taking a big risk with a lot of money. That's all I'm going to say on that one. The opening fixture for Nkunku is Man City as well. So I can understand maybe giving him one game or benching him for the first game or planning to bring him in. There is arguments to not go for him. I'm not saying he's a must buy. I think there are plenty of valid arguments to not go for Nkunku. However, at 6.5 million, I'm telling you right now, guys, probably 80% of you guys watching this right now are going to have Nkunku in your team at some point during the season. You are. Maybe 90% maybe. You're going to have him at some point. Because at that price, when you see his consistency, when you see that he's not injured every week, and you see a run of games, you watch him play, particularly if you haven't watched him play previously, you're going to be sold. This guy's a good football player. Really, really good football. Really, really good football player. I'm telling you. Okay, should we do a poll for him? We've got about 500 votes on the Salah. By the way, Salah voting, we're saying 61% yes, 39% no. So, yeah, Salah's going to be more popular than Haaland this year, it looks like. Okay. Right. How do we word this Nkunku question? Because I'm not really sure how to word this. Is Nkunku... Okay, well, right, is Nkunku a bargain at 6.5? So is Nkunku a bargain at 6.5? Yes or no? Let me know in the poll in the chat, guys. Harvey says Nkunku is the GOAT next season. Could be, could be. Kabalash says Nkunku will be in my team. EZ. Cruiser says keep him until injured. Yeah, that's another great point. And I always say this as well. I always say this in FPL. Particularly when we're talking about injury-prone players. Which, by the way... Oh, did I put 16.5? Okay, right, guys. I apologise. Let's end that poll immediately. 16.5. Can you imagine? To be fair, I don't think it's a bargain at 16.5. Right, let's try this one again. Yeah, what I was going to say is, particularly with players who you perceive as being injury prone, definitely don't overload your team with injury prone players or players, you know, who you are a little bit worried about their minutes. Don't overload your team with these players, but picking one or two, you know, they will score points in your FPL team until they're not injured. As long as they're not currently injured, then whether they're injury prone or not is pretty irrelevant when it comes to scoring points. Unless you literally think he's going to get injured every single game. Definitely understand that some people are more risk averse than others. Liam says, what would you price Nkunku 8 million forward? Would I price Nkunku as an 8 million forward? I think as a 7.5, 8 million forward was about right for him. Coming in as a bit of an unknown quantity. At 8 million, as an 8 million forward, I think some people would pick him, other people wouldn't. He'd probably be sit at around 15% ownership as a 7.5, 8 million forward. At 6.5, Chelsea fans will know immediately that this is a great deal. Standard says Nkunku should have been priced 7.5 to 8.5. Yeah, I agree. 7.5 to 8.5 would have been about right for him. 8 to 8.5 would be about right for a midfielder. I like it, man. So, the poll is saying, is Nkunku a bargain at 6.5 million? 90% yes. That is proof that they got the wrong price on him. Right, let's move on to some more players. We got Bruno Fernandes, 8.5 million. Same as last season. About right. I think that's about right. Don't think he's quite done enough to be 9 million. But I think 8.5 is a solid price for him. Some people will pick him, other people won't. Solid. FPL Fran in the chat, by the way. What's up, my friend? And yeah, I would say that's about right. I think I saw Jamodo in the chat earlier as well. Apologies if I'm missing any messages. I'm trying to like chat and read at the same time. But yeah, it says if there's any friendly faces in the chat, do let me know and we'll say hello. But yeah, 8.5. I don't think there's too much to talk about with Bruno. Manchester United fans, you taking him? Speed Naldo says Bruno's a bargain for 8.5. Expect to see him in your team. Let's move on because we spoke about Nkunku for quite a long time now. Right, Jean-Philippe Mateta, 7.5. After last season, the end of last season and the upturn in form for Crystal Palace under new management of Glasner, you can definitely understand why he's had a price increase because what was he, 5 million? 5.5? I'm not sure where he actually started on last season. So we have a look. Where did he start? I remember seeing him around 5. Yeah, it was 5 at the end of the season. Okay, so we started on 5, yeah. But look at these scores towards the end of the season here. 16-pointer, 13-pointer, 9, 20. Like he went off towards the end of the season. He was scoring like more than a goal per game at the end of the season. Absolutely crazy. Really thrived as soon as the manager changed over. The only issue here is Elise is gone. No more Elise at Palace. Eze presumably is a good chance that he's going to be gone as well. So I think it's going to be more difficult for Mateta to produce what he was doing at the end of last season. So I certainly would not expect Mateta to continuously left off with those two Crystal Palace wingmen behind him no longer in play. 7.5, it's an okay price. I'm probably not going for him at that price. 7 million with the context of Eze and Elise, presuming Eze does leave. If Eze stays, 7.5 I like. If Eze leaves, I don't think I go for him at 7.5. I'd like to see him, I'd like to see Mateta, I guess, I don't want to say prove himself, but prove himself as a fantasy asset after, after these players have left, assuming they have left. I mean, Elise is gone. Can he still produce as he was last season, at the end of last season? If not, it's a little risky. But I think going for some Crystal Palace players is definitely a potential play. Let's have a look at their fixtures over the first 6. I do not know all 6 off the top of my head, but we've got Brentford, West Ham, Chelsea, Leicester, Man United, Everton. It's okay. It's okay. It's fine, but no more than fine. Let's move on. So we've got Tony as well, 7.5. Difficult season for him last year, really. Well, difficult half the season for him, I suppose. 7.5. Do we trust him anymore? Do we trust Tony anymore? Don't know. Don't know. Difficult one. Again, another player I'm probably not going to pick. Definitely prefer... So far, looking at prices, I prefer Haaland, prefer Havertz. Prefer Richarlison at 7 million. Then if I'm going for one, Tony at 7.5 or Richarlison at 7, probably going to go for Richarlison out of the two and save that 0.5 million. Putting it out there. But penalty merchant, potentially. Not super keen. Ready to be proven wrong. Okay, Jarrod Bowen 7.5 seems cheap, knowing how good he is. Absolute star of this West Ham team. It's just going to be a case of whether West Ham can have a good season. New manager. Let's see what they can do. If they look good, then Jarrod Bowen is going to come back into the conversation. Guess we'll see how they line up in pre-season. Is Bowen going to be playing very much off the striker again? We'll have a look at the system during pre-season. Anthony Gordon, 7.5. Good price for him. He was too cheap last season. We all know he was too cheap last season because we all had him in our FPL teams. So they screwed the price up last season, but this season looks a bit better. Think he'll be in some teams, he'll be out of other teams. But I am tempted. Particularly if Isak is too expensive. If we find out Isak is like, I don't know, 9.5, 10 million, and we want to get a Newcastle attacker, Gordon has got to be an option, hasn't he? So I think I do prefer Gordon at 7.5 to Bowen at 7.5. Opening fixture against Southampton, then Bournemouth, Spurs, Wolves, Fulham, Man City after that. So it might be worth a switch around there, depending on what the fixtures after that look like. But I'm definitely looking at Gordon as a potential game week 1 player. I wouldn't say he's a lock, but he's definitely got to be on the radar. But again, it's going to be so dependent on prices. We could see, if we see Saka at 10 million, we see Foden at 10 million, we see Palmer at 10 million. Suddenly it's going to be really difficult to get all of these players in. And even Anthony Gordon at 7.5 might be a little bit out of price range, which I'm so glad we've got the absolute gift that is Nkunku at 6.5. Because that is a barg. Absolute barg. Right. Our final player for today, guys, is Big Oliver Watkins. 9 million is a good price. It's cheap. That's cheap. Again, the only reason you don't pick Watkins is because you can't afford him because you've spent so much money on Haaland, Saka, Salah, Foden, Palmer. That's the only reason you don't pick Ollie Watkins. Because 9 million is cheap. It is cheap. He should be really like 10 million. The season he had last year, man. Unreal. Like, just going through all players last season, literally the 3rd highest scoring player. What did he start out last season? 8? Yeah, 8. So he's gone up 1 million in fairness, but I think he could have gone up even more. I think that's a really good price for him. going to be good value for money. So straight away, what are we thinking? Scott says possibly on pens too, with Luiz leaving. Historically, Aston Villa haven't liked Watkins on penalties. He's not really a strong penalty taker, so unless he's spending a lot of time in the training ground, I'm not sure. But looking at the Villa squad right now, who else is going to take penalties? Tielemans, maybe? Possibly. Mima TV says, lost Douglas Luiz and Champions League football may hurt him. Potentially, yeah. There's definitely potential. Not sure about the pens though thing, though, guys. I'm not fully convinced. I don't think we should assume that yet. Hopefully we get some information pre-season about Watkins on penalties. If he is on penalties, ay caramba, could be good. Could be good. But yeah, right now, penalties or not, I think it's a good price. I think we'll probably go for Watkins at 9 million. I think we're going to have some decisions to make though, guys. Everyone thinks they're going to have Haaland, Salah, Watkins, Palmer, Saka, Foden, Gordon, Isak, Saliba, Gabriel. You think you're going to have all these players? You're so wrong. You're so wrong. Sacrifices will need to be made. And for some people, that will be Ollie Watkins. To be fair, if you sacrifice Haaland, you can probably make a really strong team. Going off what we know so far. But I guess that remains to be seen. I don't think I'm going to go without Haaland, though, personally. If I bought him at 14 million, I can buy him at 15 million. I can find some money elsewhere. But we need more prices. We need more prices. Okay, guys. So that is the last price reveal for today. There's going to be some more tomorrow. We might... I don't know if we'll do any more streams and stuff over the weekend. We might do some videos as well for FPL. But just for the last 10 minutes... or slightly less than 10 minutes, just for the next 5 minutes, please throw some questions or whatever in the chat, or some questions, some opinions, whatever you've got to say, throw it in the chat now and we'll read some of them out as we close off the stream. And whilst you guys are getting your chat questions or whatever in, just to let you know, we will be doing a match day 7 Euro Fantasy video. So if you've been watching the Euro Fantasy content, we'll be dropping that at some point, probably tomorrow, for a video there. Not going to be a stream on Sunday because obviously England are playing and the deadline is at kickoff. So I'm not going to be streaming up towards kickoff because I'll be very much out and about, possibly on the beers, for several hours before kickoff. So yes, I'm not going to be available around on Sunday, unfortunately. And one more announcement. You guys may have seen this on the stream we did a couple of days ago. Did we even do it in the stream a couple of days ago? Was it yesterday? What was yesterday? Was it? I can't remember. No, did we even do a stream? Whatever. So, losing my mind. So, obviously, we also have a new podcast, which I wanted to let you guys know about. If you like longer form content, hour-long weekly FPL podcast, we are going to be dropping one once a week. It is not going to be on this YouTube channel. It's not going to be on the FPL Mate YouTube channel. It is going to be on the Stick to FPL YouTube channel. And I've left a link to that at the top of the description. If you want to go check that out, subscribe now. Podcasts are going to start dropping on there weekly, hour-long from next week. It's also going to go on Spotify, Apple Music, or iTunes. Well, I can't remember what it's called. Whatever you want to consume your podcast on, it will be there. Clips are also going to be on the YouTube channel, on the Stick to FPL YouTube channel. They're going to be on TikTok, and they're going to be on Instagram, and they're going to be on Twitter for clips. So full-length podcasts on YouTube and podcast platform, and clips on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Go and find all the links if you want to. But just search Stick to FPL, all one word. You will find it on every social media platform. Go for it, if that's your kind of thing. But I'm looking forward to it. It's studio-based. It's going to be in a studio. We're going to get some great guests on as well. Really looking forward to what is going to be a very expensive project. But I think it's going to be worth it. I think you guys are going to like it. So, let's see what we've got in the chat. So, predictions for breakout start next year in the Prem. I'd have to have a think about that one, to be honest. But is Nkunku a potential breakout player, considering he didn't really have a season last year? I can genuinely see Nkunku being top 5 FPL point scorers this season. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I can see the possibility of that happening. So right now, I want to see some new signings for Premier League clubs, really. Difficult to say until teams have made some moves in the market. That's unlikely to happen too much until after the Euros, to be fair. And the Copa America as well. Is it possible to have Haaland and Salah and a strong team, says Zhao? I think so, yeah. Saurabh says, new chips coming? Potentially, yeah. We are expecting changes to FPL. I don't think it's going to be anything too major. It might be just one of the chips changes. Or some people have said potentially ball recovery points being added to the game. We'll see. I've got no insider information. Koivula says, so when does this season's fantasy start? I think Tuesday or Wednesday. It'll be Tuesday at the earliest. Possibly Wednesday. Let's see. I don't know how to pronounce this name. New Lin. Hopefully that's right. New Lin says, is there any new interesting picks from the promoted teams? So far, Davis at 4.5 I like, and Harwood Bellis at 4 looks good. But we'll see what the prices are saying. Teen says, is Haaland essential for you? No, he is not. He's not essential. Particularly as I think you could probably build a really strong team without him. But he's definitely got to be on the radar once again. Standard says, who are you currently looking at for forwards? Because you clearly can't have all of Watkins, Haaland, Isak, Jackson, Havertz, etc. I think Jackson probably just about misses out. Particularly if we think Nkunku potentially plays there ahead of him. Potentially. We don't know, of course, for sure. Watkins and Haaland stand out to me the most at the moment. Isak, potential depends on price. Meerkat says, would you prefer if all the decent assets like Palmer, Saka, Watkins, Son, Foden were priced at 10 million plus? FPL always used to have at least 7 to 8 premium player assets. Now we get 3 max. Yeah, I did prefer the old days. Forcing decisions. I think, if all of them are at 9 million though, 9 million to 11 million between that price bracket, so around 10 million, I think this will get the same. We get the same impact, to be fair, because you're not going to have all of those players that you just mentioned. You'll probably only be able to pick 3, to be honest, 2, 3 of Palmer, Saka, Watkins, Son, Foden, and you're going to miss out on 3 or 4 as well. When do you think the game will start? Spoke about that already. What money should your goalkeeper combo be? 4.5 and 4. I like 4.5 and 4. I also like 5 and 4. But mostly 4.5 and 4. We'll manage to find a decent 4.5. I'm sure of that. We do every season. We found 2 last season. They were Pickford and Leno. Absolutely smashed it at 4.5. But yeah, 4.5 and 6 million goalkeepers, not for me. Backup playing goalkeepers, not for me. We'll try and find a cheap 4 million goalkeeper who actually gets game time as well. We can often identify one of those, if not for injuries. Planning on starting with Watkins, I think, says Kieran. Yeah, do not blame you. Standard says, how much do you think Maatsen will be at Villa, and will he be worth it? Let's see, depending on if he actually starts. I don't know if he starts every game straight away. So I think wait and see on Maatsen, personally. And Tom says, Rodri's so important if ball recoveries come in. Yeah, he's going to be an absolute machine if ball recovery points come in, but I'm not super convinced that FPL are actually going to change very much at all, and that would be quite a significant change. And FPL don't really do changes. They do the same game every year for 20 years. Crazy. Craig says, any thoughts on what the new additions to FPL could be? New chips? I think new chips is most likely, or a change in the way that chips work. I think if we get a new chip, we'll probably lose a chip as well, so it's going to be a little frustrating. I don't think we're going to suddenly see this amazing new dynamic game with all these new features. It's going to be nothing like that. It's going to be one fairly inconsequential change in the grand scheme of things, in my opinion. But I hope to be proven wrong. But just going back off FPL's changes in the past, I mean, the last change they made was like 10 years ago, and they just swapped out the all-out attack chip for the free hit chip. So they just swapped out an old chip and brought in a new chip. And that was like 10 years ago. So I think it's probably just going to be the same thing, pretty much. Pretty boring. One minor change every 10 years. Let's go, FPL. Why move with the times when you can stand right where you are? But I think a lot of people would quite like to see the game stay the same. Particularly people who have done well in FPL in recent years. I've seen a lot of those people saying, yeah, I don't want the game to change at all. I found the winning formula. I don't want any changes now, because then I have to adapt. But I think FPL runs the risk of losing players. Lost players for the first time. Losing player base for the first time last season. Because it's the same every year. Maybe some decisions around, if the prices are right, if there's lots of more decisions to be made this season, then maybe that will make the game a little more interesting. But ultimately, they need to do something. Something has to give in order to make the game more interesting, more engaging, and get people excited about FPL again. Something's got to happen. Something's got to happen. Right, let's end that final poll. 81% of people agree that Nkunku is a bargain at 6.5. I think the amount of people who actually own him will be a little less than that. But looks a bargain. It looks a bargain. Okay. That's it for today. Price changes. More tomorrow, more the next day, more across the weekend. Looking forward to seeing what happens next, to be fair, and see who else we get. But we'll leave it for today. We'll try and drop some videos over the weekend as well. Maybe some streams as well. We'll certainly be streaming launch day. We'll do what we do every season, and we'll stream all day on launch day. We'll play some games. We'll do the FPL Team Name World Cup. Again, love doing that each year. You guys, if you haven't heard of that already, guys, you're in for a treat. And we're going to do all of the build up to the game launch. You guys are going to love it. So, yeah, lots to come. It all starts here, my friends. It all starts here. FPL season is upon us. Time to get excited. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate you guys joining me for today's stream. Or, if you're watching this as a replay, please do drop a like if you haven't done already. Really does help out the channel. Do subscribe as well. Check out top of the description. There's a link to the new podcast channel. Make sure you hit subscribe there as well. Going to be dropping some more clips and a podcast next week on there as well. But aside from that, thank you so much for watching once again. And I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.